Welcome everybody. It's podcast number 6. We got all the Plowbois with us. A couple of them missing, but I got that B dot. I got that D-O to the C. I got K-D-O-double-G and Kabish with me. My people. The topic for the day is identity and reputation. We want to tie this into our careers, but first off, let me know what you think about the two and the difference thereof. We got identity being our characteristics and who we are, and our reputation being what other people see us as. So tie in the two definitions and how you feel about your identity and your reputation and how they relate to one another. Real quick, we're gonna break it down. We're gonna start with you, K-Dog. Let me know what it is.
Right. Well, the reason why I brought this up was in church today, that's what the pastor spoke on. Kind of brought a lot of things to light because what we talked about last week. So when the pastor talked about it today, I thought it'd be a really, really good topic to bring up. When he brought it up, he asked us if we had seen something called In His Image. It's really, really interesting, you know. So like Garrett talked about, our reputation, you know, it's what other people think about us, what other people get out of us, you know. But our identity, that's who I feel I am, you know. What do I think I can do in life? What do I think I have contributed to this world? What do I think I'll be judged on at the end of my life? You know, my identity. A few little things I jotted down just to go along with this were like, you know, stuff like what does it take, or what does it mean to be a man, to be a provider, to be a protector? You know, there was this old saying where they said, where people used to say, well, man up. You know, if you're gonna do it, then you need to man up with it, you know? So what does my identity mean to me? What does my identity bring to myself that I can bring to others that would bring their identity up? Not their reputation, just bring what they think of themselves up. Overall, bringing up their rapport with others and probably bringing them a lot closer to Christ. I mean, that's basically all I really wanted to say about it. I wanted to tie in to it and say from Ephesians 5, verses 25 through 26, you know, husbands give themselves up and make holy the cleansing by the washing and through the word. Just basically just skipping over a few words, but you know, my identity versus to what my reputation may be. Not everybody out here in this world thinks that Caleb Delafosse is a good guy, you know? Everybody holds some type of bad reputation about something, but my identity is what I wanted to bring up and just have you guys talk on it on what you think identity versus reputation to you really means.
Word, man, that's real, dog. Hey, thank you for bringing up that topic. That is definitely something that's real serious because it's who we are. You know, identity and reputation. The fact of the matter is, our identity makes up our characteristics, right? It makes up what we think we are, who we identify ourselves with. It's almost like a characteristic. I identify with my family, like you mentioned. I identify with certain things. Our relationship to reputation is what others see us as. So as far as reputation goes, as we go on to pass it on to the next person, I want you to elaborate on identity and reputation and filter in how do they relate, which is more important as far as, and that to say this, we find ourselves at times with our purpose to please men, please people, maybe please the people we work for, to build up our reputation. And in sight of that, sometimes we may lose sight of our identity. We spoke earlier on the podcast about Richard Sherman, and we were talking about transition. And in his transition, I think Doc brought up, he lost his identity. And it was troublesome for him because he identified with being that football player. And his reputation was tied in with being that star football player. And he no longer had that identity anymore. He no longer had that reputation anymore. And he had trouble. He struggled dealing with that. And it led to some circumstances that he's in right now. But which is more important, identity or reputation? Doc, we're gonna go to you.
Probably reputation. Your reputation starts from kindergarten. How you was treated in school, how you treated people. And you ever notice the people like that was bullies in school, there's zero people today, that was their identity, was the only thing they knew how to do was push people around, take their lunch money. But where are those people today? They that's their whole identity. And once they get a certain age, they out of it, Right. Now, speaking of me, owning my own business, Doc Berry Trucking, and to have that on side of my door, going down all 48 states, there's Doc Berry Trucking. And I drove some nice trucks. Kenworth, the only kind of truck I ever drove was Kenworth. So that identity, I identify myself with driving a Kenworth. I don't identify with a Freightliner. And truck drivers out there in the world, they know what I'm talking about. The Freightliner drivers, the Kenworth, the Peterbilts. Now you got Peterbilts, they're a little bit nicer than Kenworth, but them boys is, they're bringing in them ducats. I'm a Kenworth guy. I'm kind of in the middle, but the trucks are real good and they're comfortable. They like the Cadillacs. Mm-hmm. They like the Cadillacs or the big trucks, and I done had 5 of them. So I identify with the Kenworth trucks, the name on side of the door, the reputation. I put my business in the church bulletin, Doc Berry Trucking. So, white folks see that, black folks see that, they say, that's Doc Berry Trucking. And I have people come up to me wanting to do business with me because I advertise in the Catholic Church. And I say, now I'm leased with a company, but, I send them to people, that if they want to move to a different state, they ask me, could I haul? I say, no, I don't do that kind of work, but I know a guy that does it. I got friends in the moving business, and I give them their number and stuff. So I identify with the Catholic Church. I identify with Kenworths, and I identify with my reputation out there on the road of having a good, safe driving record. No accidents, knock on wood. Thanks to the prayers of my mother and my dead aunt, Miss Lavinia. And, I identify with safety first, because your safety record is going to follow you.
Right. Everywhere
you go to a different, They're going to say, what kind of driving record this guy got? And they're going to see, well, let's hire him. Let's give him a job. Absolutely. And this company here, CFI,
and your identity,
got a good reputation. I'm pretty sure y'all seen CFI trucks out there, on
that business. Let me get a close up on that. Explain to us what that means.
That's Contract Freighters Incorporated out of Joplin, Missouri. Very good company, top of the line. And I worked with them back in 99, 2000, and COVID hit, Hurricane Laura hit. My truck broke down. I had to get out of the trucking business for temporary, and I went back to my old company. And man, they treat me like a king,
That's all right. And stuff. That's all right. Shouts out to CFI.
They endorsed me for that.
Right.
Shouts out to CFI. Let me ask you a question. Let me as we maneuver on to the next person, I want to tie in what Kay said and what Big Doc said about his identity and his reputation being tied in together. I think, Kay, the way you put it as you see them separate, in a sense, because you see the identity being something that you identify yourself with, and your reputation is what other people see you as. And then, Doc, you tied it into your career, saying as a business owner, your reputation is part of your identity because it precedes you, it follows you. And you talked about coming up as a kid, building up a reputation a certain way, and how you end up because of that rep. So you're saying also your reputation follows you. Not only does it precede you, it follows you. And you identify with the things like safety and the company that you with because of their reputation. So they two things that's tied hand in hand. It's interesting the way you brought that up, and the way Kay brought it up on the spiritual aspect, and the way you brought it up tied into the career is interesting. That's two different perspectives of two different words meaning different things, but still having the definition of the person describing it. Kabiz, you're a business owner, man. I want to hear your perspective on this before we move on. Let me just reiterate the question, because I see that boy Buck just joined us. Basically, what we're talking about right now is reputation and identity. The difference between the two in your sight. No right or wrong answer, man. Just in your sight. How does one relate to the other? As far as how you see yourself as your identity, how other people see you as your reputation, and how are those things tied into your career as far as, is your career part of your identity? Doc just spoke on reputation. If you're a business owner, we know your reputation is part of your business. But your identity, how you see yourself as, speak on that for me.
It's my turn.
Talking to Kabiz right now.
Oh, all right, yeah.
Okay.
Man, for me, especially in the industry I'm in, and you know me, I got a bunch of tattoos and shit like that. So I think it's a lot that go into it, because you got your personal identity, who you see yourself as. Then I feel like your reputation is who other people see you as. Like if you ask somebody about you, what is this dude like? What is this dude about? What somebody else will tell you. And then you got what you do. So I kind of feel like it's three different kind of categories. For me, like what Big Doc said, he got his truck. He identified with Kenworth. That means when somebody asks about him, it's gonna be, look, this is what he about. Every time I see him, he got a Kenworth truck. If you ask, like he said, if you ask his the company he worked for, they're gonna tell you he about safety, no accidents. If you ask about B-Dot, what is this dude all about? Oh man, that dude, stand-up dude, he all about CrossFit. You know, he can get you, if you need some meals, he can get it to you. Then you got the aspect of what you do. And that kind of go hand in hand, because if Doc quit driving today, he's still Doc Berry, you know what I'm saying? He's still a dad, he's still a grandfather. So it's certain things that is core to who you are, and there's nothing can change that about you. Then there's certain things that happen when you have kids, certain jobs you may have, certain things that may go on in your life that'll change kind of your identity about what people think, what your reputation might be. But at the end of the day, you are who you are. I think what happened with Richard Sherman and what happened with a lot of like police and things like that, whenever they get wrapped up, they identify as, oh, I'm the police. Can't nobody tell me nothing. I'm the law. But then they get caught up in a situation, do something in the wrong, now they get stripped away from it. So now it's kind of taking it away and putting them in a different category. I think that's kind of what happened with Sherman. As for me, like your reputation, like you say, you gotta have Doc with B-Dot, with selling the meals. You have to have that good, positive reputation with people. You have to have that ability to connect to people. Because if you get a reputation of where you an asshole, or you this or you that, like a negative reputation, it'll have a negative effect. It might not necessarily be true, but it'll just have that effect on it. Then some people, they have a positive, and then you find out later on, you know, like what's the dude name from Subway? Or like with Bill Cosby, it go up and down. Like
Yeah.
At one point in your life, you identified that, oh, he the greatest, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. A situation occurred and it changed people's identity of your reputation. But then come to find out, okay, then he get released, and certain people have a negative outlook, certain people have a positive outlook. So I think just for me,
I like the way you put that, Kabiz. Look, you brought up two very specific things that I wanna talk about before I pass it on to you, B. Dot. You talked about your reputation.
Hold on, real quick. Let me just wrap up real quick. For me, like I said, I feel like it's three things: who you are, who people think you are, and then what you do. So at the end of the day, what's important is, like what K-Dog said, you gotta have that internal of knowing who you are and having that internal identity and not allowing the outside world to change your reputation.
That's facts right there. I like the way you put that, bro, because that's something that nobody else had really spoke on, but it's meaningful because reputations can change. Like you had just said about the Subway guy. I read something today about how many jobs on average a person has before their lifespan is over. And it was around 15 on average. So if we identifying ourselves with specifically what we do and not necessarily who we are, it's gonna change. Now, who we are needs to be solid. It needs to be grounded in something, or you'll be a wishy-washy person, like morals, like respect, like Doc said, safety. Those things shouldn't change. The reputation that you have does change. It can get better, it can get worse. As a business owner, specifically, we talking about careers. B-Dot, I know you own your own business. Tell me about the pros and cons of that identity and the reputation, how they reflect on you, how they relate to one another. Which do you think is more important? Give me some feedback on that, bro.
Well, this question is a very difficult question for me because I really can't sum it up.
Yeah,
on
a deep question.
Yeah, it's deep. I can't sum it up without get like elaborating on a whole bunch of different things and different angles. Everybody brought up some good topics, I think, in my opinion, from what I'm hearing. But that's a hard question for me to answer because at the end of the day, what I just feel like is reputation is something that you cannot control. Who you are is something that you can control. Because I can be who I am and have the greatest intention, but create a reputation off of other people's perception of my intention. And so I just think that, you know, the reputation, which one is more important? It's more important to be yourself. And your reputation is not as important, although in society, that's what makes us either go forward or backwards, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, if you're not yourself and you just being wishy-washy, like you just said, off of trying to create a reputation that's holier than thou or that's great, you're not really being you. And I think that's when people have trouble sleeping at night. So it's a hard question to answer, but I just think that reputation is something that's not controlled. There's absolutely no control over your reputation. That's just created by you being who you are. What's most important to me is being myself. Amen. If I'm happy being myself.
Doc had brought up some updates on that. If anybody looked at the previous podcast, Doc had brought up a message that he said he's doing all right. He's recovering. I think he's waiting to see if they're gonna have surgery to remove the bullet wound, the bullet that's still inside. So he made it. He seems to be doing all right. He's posting on Facebook. And Doc, we want to thank you for that update. B-Dot, let me ask you something. I'm gonna just touch on this, then we're gonna go to Kenny. What you said speaks volumes about what people think of us. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, "Woe to you when all men speak highly of you." The word woe means be careful. Because like you said, we have a need sometimes for approval. And to get that reputation, sometimes we'll do things for the approval of man. to see
correct.
for man to see us in a certain light, and that may not be who we truly are deep down
Correct.
inside. So back to what Kabi said, it's very important to be rooted in who you are, no matter what changes, your career, your age, your family status. Be deep rooted in who you are, know who you are deep down inside, and those things, those outside influences of what people think should not be the controlling factor in your identity. Like you said, that reputation is something that we really can't control. And we talked about this before, what will be thought about after we pass away. And you said it yourself, man, we really don't have no control over that. As long as we live right now and have the ability to do what we think is right now, what's said about us after we gone, we don't control. So we shouldn't be concerned with. Buck, we about to come to you and Addie and Crossley, the Berry twin. I'm about to unmute. Tell them girls we said we love them. And go ahead and unmute yourself, my brother. Keep them right there with you, because that's your identity now, Dad.
That's my identity, man.
Lil Papa Kenny. Tie all that into this question, man. Reputation and identity. Tie it all into that. Go ahead.
All right. So, first of all, I chose the career path that basically is my identity. Like I've been welding, I've been doing construction work, I've been doing civil work and dirt work for all my life. And if I was at home, if I hit the lottery and won 100 bags, I would go home and do the same thing. Like I would be doing that at my house. So
you love what you do.
I identify with the work I do. So it's kind of that go hand in hand. Hey girl. But as to all your points about the business, man, every one of y'all had a good point. I think B-Dot hit it the closest with the reputation standpoint. I'm not disagreeing, but I definitely agree to that. But I know that in the service industry, you definitely gotta work with reputation on the line.
Absolutely.
So
that's what you know.
With that said, there is a balance though, because, and I tell you, and it's like B-Dot touched on it, man. Like you can do a job for a certain person, and you give them your charge, you give them your rate, and then they may or may not like it, and then they could go back and say something about you, and then they could try to run your reputation on the ground. So the main thing is man, your integrity. Your integrity is number one, because that's what's gonna keep. So
I like that, brother. Let me ask you this, fellas. We're gonna let Kenny get those little Berry twins together, and we're gonna jump right off into this next one. And this is the last question that I'm gonna talk about concerning this tonight. As it relates to your career. Now we brought up each person's career. We touched on it, those who wanted to talk about it, and where they are in the status. This is gonna bring us into something that we spoke about with Richard Sherman, the transition period. We're gonna all transition into another period of our life one day. You may transition into another child. You may transition into another career. You may transition into your career ending. What will be your end game when that transition occurs? Your reputation will no longer be tied with CFI or with your business. Who will you identify as then? Because we all talked about how in some lines of work, your reputation and identity is tied into that, into your career. What's the end game for your transition? What's the plan? How will it be a smooth transition into your next step of life? K-Dog, I'm gonna start with you.
I can only speak about the transition period where I went from working to just being 100% disabled, So I'd like to at least get an idea of what I hear from Doc and Kabiz and Doc,
Man,
to get an idea of how I can answer that the right way.
Sharpening iron with iron, my brother. That's what we're here for. And transitions occur in life. It don't necessarily have to be career-wise. We just tying in the topic that we talked about, reputation, identity, into career. So DOC, if you want to talk about your transition from when things will change eventually, let us know.
Okay, let's see. I'm 55. In about 10 years, I'll be retired. I'll be able to get a little check. I think I'm gonna try to work till I'm about 70, because I see truck drivers out there 77. I see some almost 80-year-old truck drivers, but I think I'm on right around 77. You know, if I'm living, God's willing. You know, I'm gonna just park my truck. You know, and it's I'll probably go back. Life is a circle, so I'm gonna go back to the things I did before I was working, you know, and had, like when I was 18, not necessarily the foolish things that I did, but playing dominoes, you know, riding around, you know,
getting beat
at the
in dominoes, you said?
Life repeats itself. Life repeats itself, whether you know, I'm gonna go back to when I was 19, you know, but I'm gonna be drawing a check every month.
Amen.
You know, be exercise. I'm gonna be exercising and chilling out around Big Oakland. You know.
Speaking of exercise, you've been sticking to your time management, dog. I don't see you sweating right now. It's the weekend. You've been getting in some air.
Oh yeah, I've been mowing grass. Look how dark I am, man. I ain't this dark, bro.
That's what I'm talking about.
Mowing grass and that.
I like the fact that you got a plan for transitioning, man. You know, some of these young cats think they're gonna be young forever, man. And
I'm gonna be on
realize that.
I'm gonna welcome you to bring your ass out here to come get some of the transitional dominoes.
I'm a transition that asks to get a whipping on the dominoes. That's what I'm gonna transition.
At least try to transition from losing all the time. Maybe you might win something, you know.
Say, bro, look, I'm gonna tell you like this, dog. Transition is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, because it don't just affect me. It affect my family, my well-being, as far as me providing for them. Hopefully at that age, when I do transition to retirement or to another career, you know, I hope that I'm not providing for them. I'm providing for myself and my wife, but I am making plans for that. I just think that we need to make sure it's a reality in our way of thinking, knowing that we young, you know, Doc, you're a little older than us, but you still young, man. Like you said, you're gonna be driving another 15 years, 20 years if you want to. You know what I'm saying? So I just think, like, I know B-Dot and Kabis and Buck about to get into this healthy thing, and I know that's very important when in transition into your older age, into your upper age, so you can be healthy and not have someone having to take care of you toward the end. But you know, monetarily, we got to make sure we make plans for that, man, and you know, set things up so that we can be, you know, provided for and live comfortable lives like we living now, as far as you know, while we work, you know. So in that transition stage, man, we're gonna pray and make sure that we are doing what we need to be doing, as far as setting up goals, setting up plans. Like Brother Man say, what's your 5-year plan? Well, we're gonna go deeper than that. We're gonna go into when our careers are over. And I know, you know, Kabis, Buck, and B-Dot, y'all established your own business, man. So y'all transition might be a bit different from mine. Y'all might be running y'all business in the stage of latter years, or passing that on to your siblings or your kids at the latter years. You know, let me know how you feel about that, Kabis. We got that transition period.
Man, like for me, I done been through a bunch of different transitions. But I just go ahead and speak on just recently, like COVID and everything, transitioning from, you know, I was driving trucks and transitioning now into the industry I'm in now, even like just recently, from last month to this month, you know what I'm saying? I had contracted with a bunch of different carriers. Now, I cancel a lot of those contracts because I'm going to a new company and I'm a captive agent, so I can't sell no other policies besides for this company. So in the meantime, I'm stuck in the meantime, you know what I'm saying, waiting for them to fulfill their end of the contract, and then now I'm going federal. So I got to register with the FINRA, all type of, you know, contracts, fingerprints and shit like that. And it's just one of them things, like when you have kids, when you go from being like a single man to being married, when you go from being just you and your old lady to have kids, anytime you go from one stage to the next, it's always that little in-between time, you know what I mean? Where you kind of like, you're not completely out of the old one, but you're not completely into the new one yet. So like you saying, when we getting ready to go into the future, whenever we finish working, however, like Doc said, he stopped driving. In the meantime, he might still get, he might, man, I'm gonna go ahead and do one more trip. Or he might say, man, I'm gonna get this little dude right here. I'm gonna let him drive my truck and do it like that. It's kind of that little in-between time where you kind of decide getting away from the old, getting into the new. But like you said, we have to make a plan. And like for me, my plan, I'm just keeping up with it. Like it's like I'm trying to get licensed in all 50 states. You know what I'm saying? And where I can, sell like different products, doing stocks and bonds and shit like that. For me, it's just about growth. It's the same thing for whenever you have a family, you get you and your old lady. You transitioning, but you growing at the same time. So that's really what it is for me. It's about growth, planning for the future, and trying to make the best future that you can.
That's what's up, man. Hey, that's some serious input right there, bro. I appreciate you on that. Like I said, you
Plowboi,
you had brought up that man, the transitioning period, man, that middle part of the transition, dog. That's real important right there. Because you know, change always is difficult, no matter what. Change for the better, change for the worse. It's a transitioning period in between that. Glad you brought that up. Because that's a delicate moment. That's a delicate period, man. We got to be rooted in our identity. We got to stop worrying about what the reputation may look like and transition well. Transition strong, man. Doc laced us down with a lot of games on that transition.
Remember
We've
this.
been using that word a lot.
It's one famous 3-day transition period. It's very famous. It took 3 days to make that transition.
Speak on it.
You know what I'm saying? So it's
On the
got
third
day.
day.
You go from point A to point B. You got
you right about that, bro. That was one of the most historic transitions to change our lives and the lives of others in the history of mankind, bro. Resurrection of Jesus Christ. So we're gonna talk about this transition period, B-Dot, and we shooting right to you, homeboy. We're gonna talk about straight up how the transitioning period for you is gonna occur when the career ends, when you are no longer able to do the things that you're able to do now. Hopefully there ain't no time soon, but how will we transition in our career, in our lifestyle, whatever it may be? There will be a change, as we all know. How will that transition go for you, and what's your plans for the future as far as transitions involved?
You have to mute Kenny with his food,
I'm about to move. You in there? Go ahead.
JC Petty Kenny over the stove. Now he cooking. He cooking.
Frying fish over there. Go ahead.
Chef Boyard Kenny. Oh, so man, god damn, y'all got some hard topics tonight, man. Cause look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Cause I know what you're talking about. You saying, I'm not gonna be able to do what I once did, from a physical standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, from an exercise standpoint. But that is a transition within itself. I'm just speaking specifically on that. We're not talking about finances. We're not talking about retirement. For me, I'm talking about retirement, financial, all. We're not talking about that. But just zeroing in on one topic of transitioning for Brandon in the future, for B-Dot.
Yeah.
When we're talking about health and wellness, that's gonna always be a part of what I do, no matter what the transition or that presents itself as. So when I was 30, I'm 45 now. I'm not doing what I was doing when I was 30 in the gym. When I'm gonna be 55, I'm not gonna be doing what I'm doing today. When I'm gonna be 65, 75, but I will be doing something. And so it goes back to what you talk about, who you are. That's just who I am. Like my pedigree, my build is that I've developed a rhythm in my life, circadian. It follows my circadian rhythm, where that's just part of what I do. I will do something as far as exercise, movement, because that's what I believe in. That's me, right? Now, the reputation, if people says, oh, he's high level athlete, or he's this and he's that, when certain people like Richard Sherman, you you're not that level anymore. So how are you going to transition at age 50, age 60, age 70, even though you're still doing that particular activity? So, and people are doing it. You know, I sent y'all a video the other day with the 60 and 64 plus age category of these guys and women, men and women. They still doing it. So, you know, you can't minimize yourself to saying, well, I'm 50, I can't do that no more. No, you just have to transition into being able to do what you can do. Now, as far as financial, making a transition on an end game, I feel like I'm doing everything that I can do. You know, anything that I can do in terms of making an effort to be prepared for the financial security once I am retired. I've done everything I can do that's in my scope of or my ability. But you know, that could change at any time too. You know, like you can plan for a lot of stuff, but you got to be able to adjust if it don't work out.
Absolutely. That's part of transition as well, my brother. That's part of transition as well. Like you say, sometimes the plans we make aren't necessarily what occurs. So we have to adjust to that. Like Kabiz brought up, it is not going to always go as planned. And that's a transition period. How can I factor in what I'm going to do now that my plan has not come into fruition? Now we're going to speak good things. We're going to speak with our plans to come into fruition. With the grace of God, they will. But we all know that there may be some circumstances that come about that we have to re-navigate our plans and redirect or whatever we got going on right now in order to maneuver in the future. So again, make your plans. And I knew we was gonna get on that health when I went to you with the bison burgers and wheat pancakes. But all I know is this. Our future is protected in Jesus Christ. We're gonna stay in him, and we know he got a successful plan for us all. So we're gonna stay rooted in that identity. So we touched on everybody except Buck. I don't know if he's ready to talk yet. Let's see if I'm gonna ask him to unmute. Go ahead, Buck.
Hey, so look, did we touch the subject on the, or is this another subject, the pros and cons of having your own business? Or are we talking about that last? So
yeah, we talking about basically transition from the point when your business is no longer necessarily your primary focus. We talking about the transition period from the where you are today to where you may be in your future when your career may be ending or your business involvement may be ending. I know if you own your own business, that may transition to you passing it on to your son or your siblings or whatever it may be. But right now, we specifically talking about transition as it involves our careers and our lifestyle as it is now.
Well, man, you can plan, you can schedule, you can do all that you want, and we can go on and on about it. But man, really, for me, it's a one day at a time ordeal for me, man. Like I just kind of got away from the long term process. Kind of like what I said back about the about being more simple. You know, like
we only on audio,
like focusing on less.
Speak on it, baby.
Like just, you know, do less, man. Whatever you can do in a day. I just focus on the day, man. Cause I feel like if I start thinking about tomorrow or next week, I start doing less. I start getting less done. Thinking about too much instead of just thinking about less and slow it down and just like, okay, so make a schedule for the day. Do all of those things, accomplish all them tasks in a day. And then when we see where we at in 20, 30 years, who knows? But I know this, if I focus, like it's kind of like driving. If you we're looking way out there in front of you, you go something might run out in front of you, right in front of you, and you're gonna hit it. Instead of just kind of paying attention to what's right in front of you and not looking too far ahead. You know what I mean? Yeah, you gotta look ahead a little bit here and there just to be cautious, but you really need to focus on more on today and like accomplishing and making the most of today, because really we don't know what you're gonna do tomorrow.
Tomorrow's not promised.
I don't let
tomorrow's not promised. You holding your future in your hands, my brother.
So like if I sit there and worry about what I'm gonna do next week or what I got going on next year or how I'm gonna be, hell, you might be in a damn nursing home. You know what I mean? You could have all them plans and boom, something happened. So I don't know what I'm gonna be. Honestly, I don't know what I'm gonna transition. I'm just going one day at a time. Honestly,
And you're right, man. We trust in God in that, bro, because we don't know. Like you said, I brought up the fact that we rooted in God. Our identity is in the one that has the created, successful plan for us. You know, He spoke that in His word, so we're gonna believe in that. And I know that you got your future in your hands right now, literally. Lil Addie is sitting in your hands. So I know one thing, bro. You're gonna have a mind for her future, and our transition period, like Kabiz brought up, is gonna be a very difficult thing to navigate through. No matter what, change is difficult.
On the transition. So with me, man, I went from making good money and having a brain surgery, and them telling me you can no longer work. I mean, but between a day, you know. So that transition, I had to readjust a lot of things in my life. Made some changes, and some of the changes that I made in my life were actually good. You know, God pulled me away from doing some things where financially I might have been better, but I was taking more time away from my family, more time away from my spiritual life, more time away from things that I actually liked to do. So God slowed me down. And that transition, now that I look at it, and I want to thank Buck for bringing up the thing about just going day to day, because tomorrow is not promised. You know, my promises, my plans were, you know, become team leader. But I was actually doing training to become a team leader and then become a district manager and moving on up. And I mean, God, that just wasn't what God's plans were. So that day-to-day thing, just realizing what you can do today, not planning on what may not happen tomorrow, like Buck said, and it's something that opened my eyes up. All of y'all said something positive, you know, but just hearing Buck being the last person that talked on it, I mean, it's something that made me realize just everything that happened to me didn't just happen by accident. You know, that was all in God's plan. Now,
as things change, how we transition will be very, very important to how we deal with the outcome on the other side of that change. And I thank y'all for all your inputs. They were very valid and deep. This was a subject that we had been discussing on the text throughout the week, and it's deep, man.
Plowboy, you ain't no silly boy. Yeah, you were born with dirty hands. Yeah, you a plowboy, and you're thinking silly boy. Just trying to make you understand. Yeah, you a plowboy, and you're thinking silly boy. Just trying to make you understand.